Hi guys, welcome back. Sometimes some people are traumatized by their weight. I want you to meet Michelle, or rather, it's new Michelle. The name of her video is The Trauma of Being Fat, but this story isn't necessarily about her. Tell me if this relates to you and your family, and I hope you enjoy.
People treat you a certain way and you accept it, and you go through this life of just living unhappy and not dealing with it. And when I finally got to the place of wanting to deal with it, I started working out. And that was a beautiful time for me because I was seeing small changes in my body, but I was also noticing how the gym and fitness impacts you mentally. And so even though I was seeing small changes in my body, I was seeing big changes in my mental health. And so I continued on with it. I was on that path for years. I yo-yo dieted until I ultimately ended up getting the VSG surgery. You guys, the point of me making this video is not to just rehash old feelings or to deal with unhealed parts of myself. The point of this video is to really just bring awareness to the fact that there is a trauma associated with being overweight. And when you can really just sit back and look at the things that alter your brain's chemistry in regards to yourself, you can start to undo some of that thinking. I'm working hard on my body. I'm comfortable with myself. I love the changes that have happened in my body, in my waistline. And it was always something that I thought was so beautiful. My sister used to, baby, she would put on a crop top in the wintertime. Hence why I got a crop top on in the wintertime. It was always so beautiful to me. It was always so feminine and so soft, and I don't know, I just really always liked it. And at first it took me out of my comfort zone. We have to challenge these negative thoughts about ourselves, and so no matter where they came from, it's our job to reinforce positivity in regards to ourselves. Nobody's responsible for your emotions and your happiness, just you. And so that's really what I wanted to convey here. So as I navigate this new journey with loving myself as I am in this body right now and continuing to change the things about my body that I am capable of changing, I recognize some of the things that I went through in my own daughter. She's so loving, so sweet, so sensitive, so caring. She's a genuinely good person.
So I have a daughter. Many of you watching at home have daughters and sons, right? We genuinely care about our kids. So let's kind of go through what's happened here. Michelle has successfully gone through VSG surgery, excuse me. She's starting to fit into some of those old clothing items that she thought was cute. It's been reinforced by her sister because her sister wears those cute outfits. Now, thanks to the surgery and getting her physical health under control, she's able to start to wear the outfits she wants to wear. Very important to some women. And now, moving forward, she's starting to see some of those old red flags that she had growing up, but it's in her daughter. So, have you guys ever struggled with this situation where you're starting to see your children grow up and they're a little bit overweight as well? If you don't mind, maybe share down below.
She has the exact same body type at 8 years old that I had. And I can see that she struggles with that. Thank God that I lived through what I lived through so that I can help her navigate her own body positivity.
All right, so here's the big question I have for you. If you're a person of faith, a lot of times you believe that we are put through these trials and tribulations so that when we come out the other side, we can help others that are experiencing those same type of pains, right? If you're a non-believer, you can still look at this from the standpoint of you're the anecdote. You're the anecdotal story. If you're able to take on this challenge of losing some weight, whether it be doing it with me by taking a daily walk, or whether it be going through surgery or medications, but if you're willing to go through that fire and come out on the other side, then you too are going to be able to help people in the future that are experiencing these same crappy feelings that we go through when we're dealing with weight issues. If you think that it is a good thing that you experienced your heaviest weight and now you're losing weight and you think that there's some good out of it, Let me know, because I'm one of these guys. I believe there's definitely a silver lining in most dark clouds.
I can't control how she physically feels in her body. I can show her how to love herself in spite of how she feels about her body right now. I can be the example of choosing a banana over chips. I can be the example of, hey, let's drink some water instead of juice. I can be the example of, let's get outside and get active today. That was the main goal for me getting this VSG surgery. I joke and play all the time about I want to look good, and I do. But being healthy and well for my children is the number one priority. Being a positive, healthy, happy role model for them, not only just with my weight and the way I eat and the way I work out and the way I take care of myself, but also being an active example. I'm showing you these things through how I live. It's just such a beautiful full circle moment for me because I had such a negative self-image and now I have such a positive self-image.
So a lot of times I talk about how even though we know we're never alone, that there's other people that are going through these struggles, sometimes we still feel like we're on an island and we're completely alone. But she says it so nicely there. She's gone full circle. She went through this challenge. She's starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and she's there now. And now that she can see everything and keep it in perspective, she's going to be able to help her daughter at the point where it's needed right now, where her daughter's starting to get these first signs of being overweight and a little, self-conscious about it. I think that's great. If you think that's great, give this video a thumbs up.
Being there to help my daughter navigate those normal body issues that really all girls are going to have. When I was going through the struggle of negative self-image, I really didn't have anybody there. Everyone around me had a different sort of body issue. I didn't have anybody that was overweight that I could lean on. My mom wasn't overweight. She wasn't able to have me lean on her for that. To her, I was just cute and fluffy. Like, for God's sake, my nickname for her still to this day is Puff. Puff and stuff. Like, because I was fluffy and I like to hug and all of that kind of stuff. So,
Isn't that interesting? Remember on yesterday's video, we had a former classmate. She was a Tongan, just like the person in the video, right? And all of a sudden they're hugging and she's saying, "You're so fat, you're so fat." And it's real easy to say, "God, how mean is that?" But sometimes it's not meant as mean. In this case, Michelle's mom calling her puffy or whatever, right? I think that once again, sometimes we have to keep things in perspective. If somebody says that you're chubby and they mean it in the meanest, most horrible way, of course you have a right to feel upset. But if it's an old friend or a family member, give them a little grace because you know in your heart they're not trying to be hurtful. And then when you're in a clear state of mind, you can go up to them and say, "Hey, I know that you and I have been talking like this back and forth for years, but I just want you to know there's something about my weight that I'm just really hoping going forward, maybe you can lay off the old nicknames." And I guarantee you they will.
I didn't really have an outlet for that. And I'm, thankful that I'm able to be that for my daughter and that I understand. I know from experience how some of these things feel. Facing myself has been rough. Making active changes has been hard. All the while still trying to focus on my family and making sure they're okay and all of the things that come along with being a mom. But putting myself first, prioritizing me has been one of the best things that I could have ever done for myself. I will never not put me first. And I'm teaching my children that you always come first.
She did not change the world one iota. She might be changing her daughter's world, which is great, but she didn't change the world, right? She had a lot of issues and she's tackled those issues. And now the world seems like a much more manageable and a much better place to coexist in, right? So if you yourself want to change the world, You have to start by changing the man or woman in the mirror. And I have a great way that we can start that. Why don't you guys go get your shoes? Let's go for a walk. Happy Sunday. Let's get into this. So Sunday for me, happy Monday for you. Guys, I wanted to talk about something that I haven't talked about in a while, which is why some people are out here walking every single day while others don't. You know, I think some of us that walk every single day realize that in order for this to work, you have to put together a lot of days of walking in a row. Now, there are some people that'll disagree and say, Jesse, I'm sure one can get away with walking consistently in the form of... That guy looked like he was going to turn left and then he went straight last second. So I think a lot of times people will tell you that you can get away with walking 3 or 4 days a week. Guys, I don't think it works like that. I thought originally it did, and when I say originally, about 10, 15 years ago, I thought you could get away with walking 3 or 4 days a week. But it's just one of these things that the best way for it to work is if you're walking 7 days a week. The reason that's daunting is because we try to equate walking to working out. You know, I go to the gym quite a bit, but when I go to the gym, I don't really go to lift weights. I go to walk. I'm just such a firm believer that the more time you can put into walking, the better. We watched a YouTuber, and she's one of my favorite ones that we watched. Her name was Sherry Lorena, and she was describing how she had lost 60 pounds over 5 or 6 months just by walking 90 minutes a day. And I think that that might be the key. The key is if you start walking for half an hour, that's wonderful, and it's going to do a lot of things to uplift your spirits, and it really is healthy for you. But if you really want to start to see change quickly, instead of thinking this isn't working, I need to pivot and do something else, I think what we need to do is actually pivot and do more. So right now, I'm a big advocate of walking right before you go to work in the morning. I think your morning walk is the best way to set you up for success, right? And I think some people that join me on the morning walk first thing in the morning probably agree with that. But there are some people that don't walk in the morning. Some of us walk midday, some of us walk evening, right? What I'm going to try to talk you into doing over this next month and a half is I'm going to try to talk you into seeing if you can actually add some walk time twice a day. So in other words, if you're walking in the morning, I want you to really contemplate the idea of walking at lunch. If that's just absolutely not doable, I want you to contemplate the idea of walking in the evening as well. Number one, you probably are enjoying your morning walks if you've been doing it for the last 45 or 50 days, right? And if you're already doing it and you already enjoy it, what would it hurt to add it to the evening? You know, we have some venters like Lily, like Rochelle, like Mala, that are literally out here every single day. And guys, very rarely do they walk for 20 or 30 minutes. A lot of times they take quite a long walk. Many times they're walking 4 or 5 miles. That's just not possible to do in 30 minutes. If you walk for 30 minutes, you're probably going to walk about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles, if you're really booking it, right? So if we take that math and the fact that we're walking 1.5 miles in the morning, and we can multiply that to the point where we're also walking 1.5 miles in the evening, all of a sudden you're getting 3 miles in a day. Each one of those hours that you're walking is probably going to kill about 300 calories. And then if we continue to baby step off of the sugar, off of the soda, then all of a sudden we've got a really good recipe for success going into this last month, okay? Now let's go back to those people that are walking 3 or 4 days a week. What happens when you walk 3 or 4 days a week, it's kind of like a gym membership where you work out 3 or 4 days a week. Every single day that you take off can technically start a routine or habit of not walking or not working out. And because working out every single day isn't necessarily even recommended, because technically we grow when we're sleeping or away from the gym, right? So with weightlifters, a lot of times you'll find out that they don't even necessarily want to trim down like I do. They want to bulk up, right? So when you're going to the gym, a lot of people there don't necessarily have the same goal that you have. And even if they do, a lot of times they don't really give credence to walking. Walking is really the best exercise that you can do the longest, the most easy, right off the bat. You know, even if I had gone the last 2 years without walking, I think you can get used to walking in 2 or 3 days, right? There's nothing tough about it other than the weather. And if you want to achieve goals like losing 20 or 30 pounds in 90 days, which again, guys, 90 days goes by that quickly. If you want to achieve those things, then what we really need to do is remember that the most powerful part of our plan is Kaizen. It's the idea that through baby steps, believe it or not, we can take anything we're doing up to that next level. This might be as simple as you setting your alarm a half hour earlier and getting out to walk 1 hour before work. Now, could I have told you this 50 days ago when you were just thinking about embarking on this? Probably not. My goal at the beginning was just to talk you into doing a food audit and to actually start a 10 or 15 minute walk. But what happens if you're still here on day 50 with me? What happened is you tried that 10 or 15 minute walk and you found out that, hey, it's not too bad. I enjoy this. You've probably already upped that 10 or 15 minute walk. You've probably already upped it to half an hour, maybe even a couple minutes longer. So my question to you is this: if it's already infused into your daily routine and you enjoy it, and what I mean by enjoy it is over the last 50 days, you've only missed a handful of days, but consistently speaking, you've been out here walking every day, then obviously you don't dislike it. You don't hate it. So if you don't hate it, why don't we contemplate the idea of making it our hobby? Well, Jesse, I've already infused it into my day. Yes, Bob. But what I want you to do is I want you to officially declare that you enjoy walking and love walking enough, where even if you were to double that output, it would just be that much more enjoyable. Let me give you an example. Let's say your hobby was collecting baseball cards, or maybe your hobby is crocheting. If every time you're dealing with baseball cards or crocheting, you notice that your spirits are up and your stress levels go down and you're happy, then that's the type of thing that you actually want to add to, right? You ever see these people and they go to every single baseball game? Dodger fans are the most rabid baseball fans I've ever seen, even more so than Yankee fans. I have seen so many Dodger fans. And when I worked for DirecTV, we would have people in other countries reach out to us because they wanted to get the Dodger network. And from what I remember, I think we had to explain to them that we weren't allowed to work with overseas customers, but we would have random weird calls from mainly a lot of Asian people. And they would call up and they'd be like, I want the Dodger network. Is that possible to get it where I live or what have you? And for whatever reason, we weren't always able to give people the Dodger network. But people that love baseball really love that it's on TV every day. That's one thing that my grandmother loved about baseball. It was on TV every single day, and because you love it, you're happier when it's baseball season. Well, guys, the cool thing about walking, it's walking season every single day of the year. So if you can talk yourself into buying an umbrella to battle the rain, if you can talk yourself into buying an umbrella so you can battle the heat, you'll be able to walk every single day. Now, don't get me wrong, I live in Phoenix, so I'm not used to giant blizzards and snowstorms, right? But what I do like to talk about is proactively making a decision to go ahead and have a gym membership or a plan B, so that when you are prohibited from going outside, you can still very much work out. Morning. Over the last 5 months that I've been walking, I think the neighbors are actually starting to get accustomed to seeing me walking with my camera. I know this sounds crazy, but I could actually be giving people a little dopamine hit when they see me. I know you're thinking, Jesse, believe me, you're not giving anybody any dopamine hits, but whenever you see something that's pleasant to you, it makes you smile. And in your neighborhood, you don't like seeing certain people with backpacks that look like they've been sleeping in the alley walking around. But one thing we do like is we do like seeing neighbors that are always saying good morning. They're always cheerful. And that's what I've become. I've become a mascot of the neighborhood. I'd be willing to bet that there's a handful of people that have said to other neighbors, have you ever seen that guy that's been walking around with his camera? What's that about? You know? I've also gotten to the point where almost every other person that's walking in my neighborhood, we've met on the show. That's kind of cool. It does create a dynamic where it almost becomes guest stars on the show, right? So I find it really fun. Because of my YouTube channel, I'm able to make my hobby of walking an even bigger hobby, because now it doesn't just encompass what I enjoy, it also encompasses the idea of recruiting other people to get into the walking deal. Look at this. This is amazing. That cat looks like he hasn't moved 1 inch since yesterday. Enjoy your day, pretty kitty. Yesterday we got to see the hawks, or whatever type of birds those were. And I'm sure you guys are looking at that on today's video, and you might not have gotten the best view. It depends on how my camera picked it up, right? But at the same time, those are things that you're not going to see if you're inside. And where I have weird birds like a peacock pop up or a coyote or whatever, you guys might have access to really beautiful squirrels or chipmunks or snakes or any number of different creatures. And when you do go out and about on your walk and you start to see Mother Nature at her best, it's kind of cool. It's a dopamine hit. So again, all these little things really help make my day, and I want you guys to experience them to their fullest. Now, what if I'm able, Jesse, what if I'm able to walk 3 or 4 days a week, but I do it consistently all the time? Guys, I'm gonna always tell you this, that's so much better than nothing. It really is. But here's the thing, if you do walk 3 or 4 days, and you notice that over the course of a couple months, you haven't really gained or lost weight, then you're able to perform an experiment there. You're able to kind of come to the conclusion that more than likely your walking is going to make it where you're able to eat what you like and sustain your current weight. Can we agree to that? If you go 6-7 months, you're walking 3 or 4 days a week, and your weight doesn't really jump up or down, you've probably found an excellent way to just keep your weight at a certain level, right? So what that tells me is that at that point, we can start to look at the positives and we can start to look at the negatives. We can work on the positives and we can eliminate the negatives. So let's look at the negatives first. You're drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee in the morning. You need it to wake up. For whatever reason, your walk doesn't quite have the wake up capabilities that my walk seems to have for me. So you're drinking this coffee. Is there a way that you could get used to drinking it with 1 or 2 little teaspoons of sugar rather than 1 or 2 tablespoons of sugar? Is there a way where instead of 4 cups of coffee with this sweet liquid that you're drinking, is there a way you could just chop it down to 3? Let's do a micro baby step. Let's not go from 4 cups down to 1. Let's just go from 4 to 3. And on that 4th cup that you're avoiding, let's go ahead and drink a bottle of water. A full 16-ounce bottle of water. Just guzzle it down, okay? If you guys don't like water, because believe it or not, every once in a while I get a comment of somebody that says, I don't like the taste of water, even though technically it's tasteless, right? Then I'm going to give you an assignment. Call it a cruel assignment since you don't like water. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you the next time you go to the store, hopefully sooner rather than later, buy one of those packets of 36 bottles of water, right? What I'd like you to do is I'd like to give yourself a little homework assignment where 6 times out of the day, I want you to guzzle a bottle of water. So what we could do is we could go ahead and put one bottle for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's 3. Most of us have a snack before lunch and a snack after lunch and a snack after dinner. Let's go ahead and drink a bottle of water at those times too. Let's stay so hydrated that we're never thirsty. And if you're never thirsty, then you're never going to grab a Coca-Cola because you're thirsty. You're going to grab a Coca-Cola because you instinctively just naturally want to crave something sweet. But I believe sometimes we grab for that soda because we're initially thirsty, and then before you know it, we've drinking one soda and we're ready to grab a second one, okay? But if you're not thirsty, if you stay hydrated, that might actually be the best way to curb your intake of soda. Let's go over to the donuts. One of the things that challenges me once I start having a piece of cake or start having an oatmeal cookie is I start going to different parts of the store and I start almost giving myself temptation. Case in point, the other day I was in Walmart and I was staring down a piece of cheesecake, because I haven't had cheesecake in over a year. I've been staring down this piece of cheesecake over the last couple weeks. So what I did over the last couple of days, because I've been wanting to really get completely away from sugar for this last month and a half again, is I've been kind of avoiding that little section of the store, right? It's by the deli, it's in the bakery aisle, right? And they've got all these beautiful looking foods, right? These dessert foods. So I've decided that instead of walking there every day to get my salad, I've decided to go to my fries store where I can get my salad and not necessarily have to look at the donuts while I'm doing it, right? So if you have a certain problem in life, you don't necessarily have to always put yourself where you have this temptation right there, okay? So again, the key to walking is to try to get out there 7 days a week. Now imagine if you're walking in the morning and the evening 7 days a week. Now compare that to what you were doing just 2 months ago. 2 months ago, you weren't walking at all. Now, if by adding an extra walk in the evening, now over the course of a week, you're walking 14 times. You know what that means? That means you're literally becoming a walking machine. A walking machine. So if we can get to the point where the only liquid that goes in our body is water, and again, notice I said get to the point. Let's roll another joint. You ever heard that song? So the point is if you are walking every day, you might as well go to that next level. Let's start dealing with your water intake. Let's get to the point where we start to see water as a fuel source as well. When you wake up in the morning and you have a bowl of oatmeal, let's get to the point where if you're not super hungry in the morning, let's take our walk first. Why, Jesse? Well, by taking our walk first, I'm very rarely hungry or thinking about food while I'm on my walk. For all you venters, answer this one question for me. When you're on your walk, do you find yourself even thinking about food? Because I don't. Other than, when I'm talking about it with you guys, I don't jones over food, okay? And when you get home from your walk, if you're hungry, go ahead and have your bowl of plain oatmeal. But if you're not hungry, why don't you just delay that bowl? Jesse, I heard that skipping meals and intermittent fasting was bad for your health. Guys, here's what's weird about that. If you're intermittent fasting, it means that you're trying to do something for your health. And if that equates to a couple of deaths each year, that's horrible, right? But let's look at the opposite. If you never try intermittent fasting, if you never diet, if you just keep doing what you're doing, aren't the odds that your life is going to be shortened, don't they go up anyway? So don't be afraid of intermittent fasting, because what I'm describing is not quite intermittent fasting. When people fast, they are making a decision that for the next 12, 14, 18 hours, whatever the case might be, I'm not going to eat. That's a decision that you're making regardless if you feel hungry or not. Good morning. What I'm describing is not that at all. What I'm describing is an idea that if you have a midnight snack, and what I mean by a midnight snack is anything after dinner, assuming your dinner is at 6 in the evening like most people's is. If you have that midnight snack, you're gonna wake up hungry, and before you go on your walk, you're gonna wanna eat something for breakfast, and it might not necessarily be oatmeal. But if you can get rid of that midnight snack by joining our 7:30 club, where we agree that our dinner is gonna be our last meal of the day, and then we're gonna shut it off. What'll happen is you'll start waking up in the morning, and for the first day or two, you might be hungry, right? Because you're used to having a snack at night. But by day 3 or 4, you're gonna start to realize you're not that starving in the morning anymore. And what's gonna happen is when you take your walk first, and then you come home from your walk, you're gonna notice the same thing I do. I'm not really hungry for breakfast. So if you're not hungry and you choose not to eat, that's not fasting. That's just not eating without feeling hungry. We always hear people talking about listening to the cues, right? I want to learn to listen to my body cues. I want to learn to eat when I'm hungry rather than just when I want to taste something on my palate, right? And so by listening to our cues, we can actually learn those body cues by doing what I'm saying. Get rid of eating that last snack at the end of the night. You don't have to do it forever. Just do it for these next 40 days that we have this 90-day challenge going. And if you're on your second challenge with me and you never did the 7:30 rule last time, try it with us. It really does work, okay? It really helped me get those last couple pounds off so I could get to the point where I had lost 18 or 20 rather than 13 or 14. And I think we can agree, over the course of 3 months, you'd rather lose 20 than 13, although let's be honest, a lot of people would absolutely kill to lose 13 pounds over the next 3 months, okay? So again, let's not belittle anything. Let's try to put every effort we can into winning this game. What do you mean? Well, think about it, guys. Right now, it's basically halftime. We're getting ready to jump into the third quarter, right? Because the halfway point of a 90-day challenge is about 45 or 50 days. So if we're already at halftime and technically into the third quarter of this challenge, and we haven't lost 25 or 30 pounds yet, we're losing the game. But don't worry, it's a game you don't necessarily have to win to still be a total winner in it, okay? So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that snack in the evening. So let's all try to join the 7:30 club if it's feasible. If some of you work the evening shift and your last meal of the day is 2 in the morning and then you go to bed, well, make that your last meal of the day and go to bed. Don't stay up late and eat till 3 or 4 in the morning. Whatever your last meal of the day is, wherever your dinner is, don't eat that snack afterwards. Wake up in the morning, start eating something plain like Cheerios. Start eating something plain like cornflakes, not frosted flakes, cornflakes. Start eating something really boring like plain oatmeal. When you're hungry and you fill yourself up with a bowl of plain oatmeal, the hunger pangs go away. But after you finish that bowl, you are not going to tell yourself, that was delicious. Let's make a second bowl. Now, in case you are one of the 1 in 100 people that do feel hungry still, by all means, make yourself a second bowl. It might take a couple extra days for you to get to the point where you can take it or leave it. That's where you win in our game plan. Can you take it or leave it? When you go to the donut at the store, can you look at it and take it or leave it? If you can, then we can make a choice to leave it, okay? Let's bring that back to the oatmeal. When you wait until after your walk has this natural ability to make you not have to think about food. So imagine every day you're having a snack at 8 or 9 in the evening, right? Maybe even midnight. And imagine every day you're waking up and you're having bacon and eggs or a bowl of Fruit Loops or whatever the case might be. Now imagine this next step where all of a sudden you're ditching that late night evening snack. All of a sudden you're waking up in the morning and you're eating oatmeal. 3 or 4 days into eating oatmeal, you're going to actually get to the point where you say, you know what? I'm good. I don't need another bowl of oatmeal. I'm going to go ahead and skip that. You know, all of a sudden we have a situation where we're walking more than ever because we're going to add a second walk to our repertoire. All of a sudden we're drinking 6 glasses of water, which is going to naturally make it where we're not thirsty. So if we drink a Coke, it's because we're making a decision. I want to drink a Coke, but it's not going to be because we're thirsty, because we're going to be plenty hydrated, right? And if you can make that decision when you go to Burger King that, hey, I'm going to have a small fry and a Diet Coke rather than a sweetened Coke. And by the way, I'm not advocating going from Coke to Diet Coke. But what I'm saying is, technically speaking, that Diet Coke has 0 calories. The actual Coke has, probably a couple hundred calories, right? So what you want to do is you want to keep implementing these baby steps. And speaking of steps, check this story out from our friends at the Good News Network. There is a story that I read today about the angel of Nanjing. He has saved 469 jumpers from suicide in China over the Yangtze Bridge over a 21-year career. This gentleman's name is Chen Si. He is known as the Angel of Nanjing, where he has been a volunteer for the last 21 years. What he does is he crosses this bridge on his little scooter 10 times each and every day. Occasionally, he'll see people walking. And what he's noticed through observation over the last couple decades is sometimes people seem really in a weird state of mind, and they're fidgeting and they're looking back and forth. And what he's determined is that at least a percentage of these people are contemplating doing a jump because this is the most popular place in all of China, okay? He checks for lingerers. He checks their body language. Do they look fidgety? Do they look kind of upset and out of sorts? And if he thinks they are, he goes up and he says, good morning. Or he says, good afternoon. Or how are you doing? It's a nice, pleasant day, right? And what he's found is that a lot of times, that's all people need to change their mind. And so all of a sudden, 2 decades later, he's considered an angel in the area because he's helped hundreds of people decide to keep on trucking and not jump to their deaths. Now, guys, that's a beautiful story. Let's move it over to our walking routine. When we're out walking and we see people like LeBeau or 2 Cents or Nickel and Dime or Brett or Mrs. Overton, right? A lot of times it's real easy to just assume, hey, that's a neighbor just like me trying to get their steps in. Guys, that person might have just had the worst day of their life, and they might be contemplating horrible things that they want to do to themselves or, God forbid, to others. By you waving your hand and saying good morning, you might be that angel that they needed. They might have been praying to the Lord or their God. They might have been praying, just give me a sign that I had to do a battery change real quick. But let's say somebody goes on a walk, but they're in the most horrible mood of their life and they're thinking about doing something rash to themselves or others. They could be asking their God, give me a sign. Show me that I'm not alone. Show me that somebody up there cares about me. Now imagine here you are, the venter, walking through the neighborhood. You extend your hand up in the air. You say hello, how are you doing? Enjoy your walk. And all of a sudden they wave, say hello, they go about their way. You're thinking, no big deal, I just said hello to a fellow walker. But in reality, you might have just saved a life there. Now, did you save a life? Mathematically speaking, probably not, right? They were probably had no intention of jumping off a bridge, right? They're in your neighborhood on the ground. There's no bridge to jump off of, right? But at the same time, guys, believe me, there has been more than one occasion where I've woken up in the morning or I've gone to bed at night with a prayer in my heart saying, Lord, show me a sign that I'm not alone. Show me that somebody cares. Show me that I'm not the only person walking, at least not in an overall cosmic sort of way, right? I might be the only one walking in my neighborhood, but show me a sign. You know, when I went on my first walk and I decided to bring a camera with me, my first sign was Stacy. And I thought, honestly, I would see Stacy out here walking all the time, but let's be honest, I've only ran into her 2 or 3 times because she walks at like 3 in the morning from what I understand. But on that first walk, you know, you're looking for somebody to give you motivation, and all of a sudden you meet a person that's, you know, going through, that's recovered from cancer. And then you ask them, why do you walk? And they say, well, walking's better than running, and I've lost 138 pounds over the last year or 2 or 3. God, those are excellent stories. What better sign did I need? Well, there might be a person ready to jump off the bridge, and if you just simply say, hey, good morning, how are you? You might be able to keep those people from doing something rash. I'm telling you, this world has a real way of chewing people up and spitting them out. And when people say hello to you in the morning and you don't have the decency to say good morning or hello back, God, all you're doing is feeding into that problem that we all have of thinking this world is just full of automatons. And by the way, that's where people like me start bringing up things like the simulation and background characters, because when you walk by people and they don't even say hello, they do kind of seem like robots. So again, if somebody says hello to you, I mean, unless they have 3 eyeballs and look like they're from another planet, say hello. They could be looking for some sort of interaction. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be their best buddy and start hanging out with them 24/7. But it does mean that if they say good morning to you regularly, just say good morning back. There's no pressure in that, right? Anyway, I want you guys to enjoy your walk. I'm sorry if I came across as a babbler, but hopefully you enjoyed the story of the Nanking Angel, or whatever city that was in China, whatever state that was in China, province. But anyway, have a beautiful day. Here's a chance for you to do your first day of extra credit. There's no reason why you can't walk for another 15, 20, or 30 minutes. So even though I'm stopping, if it's a beautiful day where you are, keep going. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.